All right, we are out of hand way further behind than I would ever like to be. So let's come on in. Let's go ahead and rank these palettes that I've last tried. Hey guys, this is Ashley. Welcome on back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're older but goodie, welcome on back. My name is Ashley. I have a doctorate in pharmacy and I love makeup. So that's how you get Dr. Ash and her makeup. But please just call me Ash or Ashley. And I am so far behind. But I already told you, I've been sick all summer. So I had a huge backlog of palettes while I was unable to film. And then keeping on top of new releases. So I literally have 19 palettes to rank today, and I did actually rank them. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about all of the rankings that I did, but I did take the time to rank all 19. Now, normally when I rank palettes, I like to come in with about 10 to 8 palettes. This is a way for me kind of to give my final review, let you know how I feel about the palette after I had time testing out the palette on my own, because typically when I do my video, it is like a first impression, the one look or the 3 looks with one palette, and I like to wear them out and about. So some of these palettes, because of sheer time and just me like not feeling well, I have not worn them out and about, but some of the more favorite options, I have worn them out and about. And yeah, so here we are. I mean, it's just been a lot, honestly, because usually I feel like in the summer months, we don't have as many great palette options. And there were some bangers that came out this summer towards the fall. And then, of course, we pick up with the fall releases. And now it's with the holiday releases, although like 3 of my favorite brands, I'm like, ooh, you have one of my favorite brands, I was like, I expected to be disappointed. But the other 2, I'm like, okay, yeah, these are not for me. But it is what it is. So let's go ahead and jump in to the ranking. And I will let you know what I have received in PR and what I haven't. And I don't think it's too much, but there's enough in here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So coming in at number 19. Number 19, we have the Kryptein Cosmetics Atlantis palette. So I really feel like this is a really gorgeous blue palette. I'm not even so sure of how I feel about it being in the 19th spot, but one of the reasons why it is lower than the counterpart of the Violet Crazy palette, which you'll see a little bit, is because of these 3 mattes. Definitely these 2, because these 2 mattes definitely make up the palette. So when I tried using these mattes, they came off very whitewashed, and I was very surprised because with Kryptein Cosmetics, even though they are a China-based brand, they're C Beauty, the mattes have had great pigmentation. I haven't had that with the brand, and they were able to show up on my skin complexion. But for some reason, these particular shadows, these 2 right here, when I went to go blend them out, I had a lot of white base in there, so it wasn't really showing up true to color as far as giving me a light blue, giving me a light purple, but just more ashy on my skin complexion. But there has been some good feedback that come out of actually showing these 2 palettes, and I'll talk about that in a second. Now, the rest of the shimmers and the darker mattes are absolutely wonderful. You can kind of share these down. I do love the blues. The shimmers are really pretty. Don't have a problem with any of them. It's great standard formula. I do feel like you need to use the glitter glue with these particular shades, but overall, the palette is a really nice color story, and I'm actually pleased. I'm pleased that I have it, but like I said, these 2 mattes for me don't really do it, but I will probably just dip into another palette if I want something a little bit lighter. But like I said, the shimmers, like right here, you have cool tone, you have gold. So even if the palette is definitely more cool tone, you do have like these 2 shimmers right here that would definitely bring like a little bit of more warmth to the looks. But overall, it's really pretty. But because a couple of those mattes didn't work out for me, it definitely left a little bad taste in my mouth. Now, this palette is absolutely gorgeous. This is coming in at number 18. This is the Nudetrals by Cosmic Brushes. And honestly, this is like one of those things, like if I was only ranking like 10 palettes and not double the amount, or it would be ranked a lot higher, but there are just things that I love so much more that I have tried out lately in the last, let's see, this ranking would go all the way from palettes that came out at the very end of June through November, except for the Polar Express palette by Nomad Cosmetics. So that was my last video, but here we are. So we have the neutrals. This is a fabulous palette, and I want to say they just finally restocked it. This is by Cosmic Brushes. The price point is also really great. I want to say it's about $30, maybe a little bit less than $30. It does come out of the UK, so you do have to wait like 1 to 2 weeks for the shipping and processing time in order to get your palette. It is a beautiful, spicy neutral palette. If you're looking for a neutral palette that has a lot of bang for your buck, you're going to get some multi-chromes for a reasonable price point. I feel like this is the palette for you. You have beautiful shades like this here and here and here. You have this multi-chrome. You have beautiful matte shades that pick up very well. You have like your mustardy shades. You have your green and grungy shades. You have your nice neutral brown shades. You can kind of go lighter where you have here and here and a little bit more subdued, or you can kind of go very bold with this like nice fiery red shimmer. And overall, it is a really gorgeous palette. I would highly recommend this. The packaging is nice also. It's just nice and simple, nice and basic, not too much, not too little, and I really like it. So coming in at number 17 would be the counterpart, the Cooltrals. And I really do love this palette. There have been a lot of cool tone palettes on the market. I've actually recently compared this palette to having like maybe the Summer Garden palette, the Floating Life palette, the Gargoyle palette. Definitely Gargoyle, Summer Garden, and this definitely have like the same vibes. So if you're looking for a cool tone palette and maybe those other palettes are too pricey for your price point because they're in the $50 and $60 range, I would definitely recommend this Cooltrals palette. You have infamous choices. I feel like this palette is also a little bit better position than the neutrals because you also can go light and you can go deep with this particular palette. You have beautiful multi-chromes right here. You got your taupes, you have your blues, you have your purples, you have your pink, you have your deep shades. So you have a little bit of warmth with the palette and the cool tones. The blue, this particular sparkly black matte, I was able to create really nice looks. And like I said, I feel like this is a good like kind of substitute for Gargoyle if you aren't able to afford that price point from Unearthly Cosmetics. But I do think like the Gargoyle has a little bit more to offer than that. Once again, the quality of the shadows are really nice. The blendability of the mattes, even the mattes that are like a little bit lighter in tone, they show up very well. Like you don't have to worry about it being whitewashed. You don't have to worry about it having that little white cast when you go ahead and blend it out. And even like when I just talk about like even if you're just dabbing and you're just seeing a bunch of white, that also I take into consideration. So I did not experience that with these particular shadows. I wish I had like more time to play with this. So these two palettes, actually the last three, I have not had a chance, just being totally honest, because like I said, all of these palettes, when I do a palette ranking, I like to use more than once, but unfortunately these three, I have not had a chance to use more than once. So this is number 17, the Cooltrals. All right, number 16. When I say this palette gave me a run for my money, I mean a run for my money. But I'm glad that it gave me a run for my money. It turned out to be very beautiful. And you guys supported this video very well. So I would like to say thank you for this. This is by Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I did purchase this with my own money. I'm saying that because I do get a lot of PR from Blend Bunny Cosmetics, but the collabs I haven't tend to get, and that's fine. I have no problem supporting the brand as I see fit for palettes that I do like. But I thought that this palette was set up really nicely. This is the collection Divination in collaboration with Robert Welsh. The price point was really nice and fair. It was kind of like standard with Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I did want to say I got this like on a little bit of a, no, I didn't get this on sale. I'm thinking of She Never Misses. It got on sale, but you have really nice, beautiful color stories. Now, one thing that did shock me about this particular palette, I just felt like this row, I thought it was going to be a lot deeper than it was. So some of those shades just kind of took me by surprise. But of course, you have like the traditional Blend Bunny format where you're going to have like that color transition. I did like that there were a lot of neutral shades in there. The look that I loved the most was like when I put the purples and the browns together. It was absolutely stunning with the lighter rose gold. It was an absolutely stunning look. And same when I did my grays and my purples or in my teals together as well. You're definitely going to get more iridescent shades out of this particular row and definitely deeper, more jewel tones out of here. And then this shade, I would say it kind of like left me a little less to be desired. I just thought it would be like more orangey, more just like pop. And it just kind of fell flat for me. And I felt like it would just, you know, usually Blend Bunny, I don't have a problem with it showing up on my complexion, but I just felt like that particular shade fell a little bit flat. But other than that, I loved everything in it, and I especially love this shade right here, Skeptic. So I haven't unfortunately had another chance to play with this, but I am playing with it. And I'm also like trying to, you know, create shorts and things like that so you can see more looks and more inspiration. I've also got my palette rotation videos going up also as well. So that was number 16. So coming in at number 15 is the Kryptein Cosmetics Tulip Drinks. Now this was sent to me in PR, and this was sent to me in PR kind of like, and it's a good positive response to my video. I had given some feedback when I was doing the Violet Crazy video by Kryptein Cosmetics. Now the Violet Crazy and the Atlantis palette, those released together. This is a release that came out in October, and it looks like this. It's a nice little 5-pan palette, and the owner, Haley, she reached out to me and she said, hey, I saw your video on the Violet Crazy. I didn't really take into consideration some of those matte shades not showing up in your complexion. I'm going to work on that better. I'm going to, you know, put more effort into that in my future releases, but I have this one ready to go, and it may or may not work for you. Would you like to try it? I was like, I absolutely would like to try it. And so I always felt like Kryptein Cosmetics, they always had a good rapport with their customers. When I first tried them with the Burnt Forest palette, I tried to use a code and something happened with the code. I messaged her and I was like, can I apply the code? And she wasn't able to because she was such a new brand and PayPal wouldn't let her. So she literally sent me the money out of her own personal PayPal to cover that expense. And a lot of times you get the free shipping, you get like a discount, or like with the Atlantis and the Violet Crazy, you got a bundle. So this palette was given to me. So I'm ranking this one a little bit higher because actually all of the mattes actually worked for me. Now this particular shade right here, she actually said that once this palette came out to me, now she sent it to me in advance, but she ended up resending me this purple shade because she said, and she mentioned when the palette launched, that you know, this shade was not actually to their satisfaction. Now, the original purple shade, I did not have any problem with. It actually showed up really nice. I was really satisfied with my look. But she did resend me this shade after the fact, so I popped in the new purple. I wore this look all day long after I filmed, and I had no problem with it. The staying power was great. Of course, I went ahead and used my glitter glue. All of the shades, all of the pastel shades showed up. And that's what I was used to when it came to Kryptein Cosmetics, that even though they looked a little like they might be dusty, but not dusty, they showed up and actually stayed true to their color. Like they just look like a muted green, a muted purple, but it was obvious that they were purple and they were green, and it wasn't a bunch of white pigment back in those shades. So that's why this palette definitely came up higher. Plus you have a beautiful, beautiful multi-chrome right here. So even though like it's definitely kind of like one color story, but you kind of have a couple different color stories there, and it just depends on how you pair this particular matte, these mattes with this particular shade. So yes, really enjoyed this. All right, coming in at number 14, this is the Paleo palette by Clionadh Cosmetics. I was very excited to try this. Now this one, I do have good marks. I actually filmed this over the course of like sitting here and actually filming this on the way to go, you know, to an event or so. And I had very great luck with it. I feel like it's a really beautiful neutral palette, and I was really happy to have this in my collection because this is a palette that came out back in, I want to say like 2017. I had never experienced the mattes with Clionadh Cosmetics, and so of course I'm very familiar with their stained glass shadows. Now the palette is expensive. It was not cheap. I wouldn't say it was about in the $70 range, so that's something to take into consideration. But we always know that Clionadh Cosmetics has never been an inexpensive brand. They do hand press all of their shadows, but they don't give the impression that the shadows have been hand pressed, to be honest. Because sometimes I feel like when you see shadows that are hand pressed, you're like, yeah, it gives it. Like this palette gets professional. Of course, the shades are magnetic. I do like how it has the little divots in the palette because although that might not be the most aesthetically pleasing, I appreciate it, even though I'm not a huge girl that likes to take shades in and out. But look, I just tried it with my Sumerian Sunset palette, and the magnet I had, it about almost took me out. It about almost ruined one of my shades in there. Like I still have some left, but it was the time. But overall, this palette is a gorgeous neutral tone palette at the core with pops of blue. Of course, you got a lot of blue at the top. You got a lot of neutral at the bottom. I really like that you can definitely deepen up your looks going here. You kind of have like a nice like kind of like aubergine brown shade right here. Same with going with the deep blue and this nice velvety blue here and here. So you get a lot of nice neutral shades. So definitely the shades on the bottom are shades that I feel like you could definitely do a one and done look with. So I feel like you could definitely get a lot of looks with this palette. I mean, you could just wear it on a daily basis. Like, yes, like it has the blues, but the blues can kind of transform it for like a special event, or if you're going out later on that night. But definitely, I feel like this is something you should definitely be getting a lot of use out of because of these gorgeous neutrally tones. And these are neutral tones, kind of like similar to what I have on now, where I like it because it has a little extra, it has a little something, it has a little pizzazz. And of course, because this is Clionadh Cosmetics, like the shimmer formula is really nice and very vibrant. They're a little bit softer. I would definitely use the glitter glue. So they do have like some of a multi-chrome shift, but there's not a huge multi-chrome shift because these are not the stained glass, but the quality is definitely there. Definitely would say the mattes show up nicely, but they are a little bit softer, but they are very easy to blend. So I would definitely recommend this palette if you were thinking about it. But yeah, it's really nice. But like I said, it is expensive. Okay, coming in at number 13, this is the Legend of Audra, because I would call it Land of Audra. This is by, so what did I say? This is number 13? Yeah, 13. So this is number 13. This is by Adept Cosmetics. This palette was sent to me in PR. I do get quite a bit of PR from Adept Cosmetics, thankfully, and I do have a code now, which is Dr. Ash. And this is the look that I have. Now, I did film this, but I filmed it as a short, so you'll see it up on my channel, and I love the way it cleans out. Now, when I filmed with this palette, the looks I got, they were cute. They were okay. I don't think it was my best work, to be honest. I was just trying to film, to be honest. Like, I was just trying to get on camera, film, do something that makes me feel happy. Because like I said, I've been very sick. I was in the hospital. So this was filmed like a week and a half, couple weeks after being out of the hospital. This palette was sent to me while I was in the hospital. But I can definitely say that I like the palette a lot more right now because, oh my gosh, do you see the shade, right? Do you see this? This is definitely like a spicy neutral moment. I have this particular shade right here all over the lids. Of course, I use my NYX glitter glue, and the two shades I used right here was Toric and Meth. And let me tell you something, Toric came with the pigment. I kind of dipped into my brush. I didn't realize I had dipped in so hard, and I was like, whoa, the pigmentation is here. So, and then go ahead and pair in this purple. It just gave that nice contrast that you put in with. So it's very a sultry look. Like you can definitely go out with this look, or you can kind of go a little daytime. Maybe not so much how heavy I went with the purple, but it's there. What I do also appreciate with this is really nice, fun neutral shades in here. You kind of have like these two shades that kind of shift a little bit more turquoisey, so you're going to get the nice use out of the purples and the blues here. Of course, you got this pop of pink, and then, you know, with Adept Cosmetics, sometimes the matte arrangement is like, oh, I wouldn't quite have thought about that. You know what I mean? So, but you have very sparkly shades like this. I mean, this is a very glam palette if you think about it. So if you're not quite sure about it, I definitely recommend it. And definitely, like I say, you can go ahead and pull from like any one of your mattes, your brown mattes, and get some really beautiful neutral looks. So it's kind of like how I feel about the Vivette palette by Adept Cosmetics. I'm like, dang, I just wish that those mattes were different because I really do like the shimmer shades. But then once I used this, I was like, okay, this is kind of like my Vivette but toned down. So I did not pick up the Vivette palette, and I don't think she didn't really send out a whole lot of PR for that one. That's fine. I think just one person, but that's just not my color story. Like, I know I could do some stuff with some color stories, but so that was my second disappointment. So, but this right here, this little baby is good to go. It's some fabulous shimmers in here. Of course, you know, this Adept Cosmetics, and I love how they've been doing the packaging lately. You know, it has this nice little holographic moment with the designs, and then of course the embossed palette name. Coming in at number 12, we have the Flourish palette by Ensley Cosmetics, and she is gorgeous. Now, you know, Ensley Cosmetics is not cheap. So even though this is just, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, a 12 pan palette, it's still like kind of pricey, and it came out with a sister palette, so it still was like in the $100 mark when I purchased this. But when I purchased it, I was like, do I want this? Am I going to wear it? And the looks, I have not worn it since, but I will definitely be pulling for it because I feel like I can kind of get some really, I can definitely get some really nice spring looks, some really nice summer looks, and I can inherently get some really nice fall looks, especially with this brown, this coppery, this orange, this little limoncello shade. It's called Buttercup Bliss. It's actually really pretty just across the eyes if you want to do a one and done shade and mix it in with this particular brown. And then of course you got more bright and bold and vibrant shades right in here. So I felt like it was a really pretty palette. My thing is I tend to like color, and you guys know that, but I tend to like more a grungy color story. I'm not always into very tropical color stories, but I felt like this is tropical, but not taking it too tropical. So that's why I went ahead and picked up this palette, and I'm really happy with it. All of the mattes perform really nicely, and all of the shimmers, because it's Ensley Rain, they don't play around. So even though it is expensive, I definitely feel like it's worth the price point. And I want to say that this might have been on sale recently, because you know that Black Friday and all that stuff is kind of gearing up. All right, coming in at number 11 is going to be the Violet Crazy palette. And this is by Kryptein Cosmetics as well. It came out with the sister palette, the Atlantis palette. And this is the palette that I was talking about, where I kind of made that feedback, and the owner reached out to me about, you know, the mattes. Now, I felt like, unlike the Atlantis palette, these mattes, they did work for me, but they were just lacking. They just need a little bit more pigmentation, just a little bit more punch. So here and here, because I was just like, okay, but they weren't giving whitewash, but they were very, very light. But the one thing I did do to combat that, I went ahead with my DD Signature primer in the shade Barbie, which is a nice little pink primer, and put it underneath this particular shade, so that way it amped up. Now with those particular primers, because it is a little bit more emollient in how my eyelids are set up, my eyelids are actually kind of a little oily. I did put my regular primer on and then put the pink primer on, and I feel like it really helped boost up the cost. Otherwise, you have the gray, you got the deep purple, you have the lighter purple. This one I kind of struggle with as well, but you have beautiful shimmer options. It is just like a perfect violet mauve color story. You can go deep, you can go a little dramatic, you can definitely use daytime. You should be able to get a lot of looks, a lot of wear time out of this palette, and the longevity is really nice of it. For what I wore walking around the house. It's the theme of the video. Unfortunately, I haven't had another chance to wear this particular palette out. One of my favorite shades right here is called The One, because it literally is the one. Beautiful, like the Violet Crazy shade is really nice. You have this really nice rose gold shade, the purples. It's just a really solid palette. And this is like one of the reasons why I did not get Roxa by Natasha Denona, okay? All right, coming in at number 10 is this little baby right here. This is a Glaminatrix Cosmetics Barely Basic palette, and I thought that this palette was really beautiful, and a lot of you all did too. Now, this palette was sent to me in PR, but like I said, it was sent to me kind of like during that time where I was down, but it's just a perfect neutral palette. If I was to make any corrections to this palette, I would just say that this row just needs to go a slightly bit deeper. I feel like they played it just a hair too safe with this. I like how the color progressions goes. They've kind of been doing this a lot lately with the last couple of palettes. I like that we have the 2 rows of shimmers, and I also like that we have like these little transformative shades right here, because they really do bring that pack to punch. And I also really like putting shades like this just across the whole entire lid and with a matte, because I feel like that just looks really pretty. It looks really ethereal, and kind of just gives a whole new look and a vibe that you can wear with the palette. Now, I love that we have like the inherently, we got the cooler tone shades, we got our grungy gray, our grungy shades, we got our nice little caramel shades, and then we also got our mauve moment right here. So you have infinite amounts of moments. Like, it's not basic. It's definitely a spicy neutral palette. The quality is there. there, of course, because it's Glaminatrix. The mattes are really nice. But like I said, I think they could just took this row just a little bit deeper and it would definitely been perfect on my skin complexion. And I think if you go a little bit deeper, not to say that you can't get the depth out of there, but if you add in this shade to some of the other shades, you can kind of just pull it out. But I just prefer that it would just go a hair deeper. And the reason, like, because my complexion, it can be very up or down. I'm more on the tan market. If you guys see me in the summertime or more in the summer, I can be even deeper than this, or I can be a lot fairer. But a lot of times also, I like to just really build that structure and that depth in my eye, because I do have a hooded eye. So it just kind of pulls that back and you can kind of see the lid more. And I'm also thinking about my girls who are deeper than me. You know what I mean? Like, we want things to show up. So we don't want to play around. I rather things be a little bit too deep than too light, because I can always just go ahead and blend it out and go in with a lighter hand versus just being too light. You just can't make it any deeper, you know what I mean? Other than just pulling it with another palette. So I feel like this is really beautiful. I do have a code with Glaminatrix. It is Dr. Ash. And I want to say they're going to restock this palette sometime this month if you're interested in it, because I do feel like it is a really fabulous palette. All right, coming in at number 9 is the Ensley Rain Flutter palette. And this is the sister companion palette to the Flourish palette. And oh my gosh, it was just no way. Like, if y'all know me, y'all know that I love a little green. I love a little mint. I love a little grungy story. And this is right up my alley. I think like everything is beautiful with this. Now, of course, like Ensley does do like the whole AI situation, but I feel like the AI just really adds to their color stories of their palettes. It just makes them like just jam. You know how sometimes like you put a background on the palette and you be like, oh, if that background wasn't there, it would not help. You know, like the palette would be like, mm-mm. But unlike that, you know, like this color stories really do pop by itself, and then the backgrounds just amplify it. Like I said, I like how you have these little divots, makes it easy to pop out. You have very beautiful shades. You have ethereal shades right in here. Now, I would say, like, you know, of course, Mystic Meadow and Moonflower, these two shades, these are shades that we're kind of used to seeing across the board when it comes to like a lot of indie brands, because it's kind of like that typical blue brown shade that MAC Cosmetic pioneered, okay? Ooh, that's a pigment I just need to wear, like straight up, like blue brown, like it's literally like a bitch, you stole my look. Like, she has been duped and duplicated so many times, okay? And then, of course, you have this shade right here, Golden Hour. This is one of my favorite shades because I love a nice little grungy gray base multi-chrome. Really gorgeous. We have like a nice metallic kind of multi-chrome and pixie petal. And then Dewdrop, we have this nice fun blue. So you have a lot of options and color stories. The mattes play very nice with each other, like the mustards. You got at the depth, you got the purple. So you can kind of get a little bit mauvey. You can definitely do grungy. You definitely have your light tones. Love my little ashy grays and stuff like that. I don't know how Ensley does it, because they have some shades that you just look at it and be like, no, that ain't gonna look good on me. But it looks good. Even on my warm skin complexion, even on my deeper skin complexion, it looks good. I don't know how they do it, but somehow it works. So really love this palette, coming in at number 9. All right, we're almost there. So coming in at number 8 is this beautiful baby right here. This is the Oceano palette by Clionadh Cosmetics. So this was one. All right, we're almost there. So coming in at number 8, this is the Oceano palette, and this is one of the trio palettes that came with the Paleo, the Archeo, and the newest sister Oceano, okay, from Clionadh Cosmetics. Like I said, this one was a little bit more expensive as well, but I like this one is so far up because literally this is one of my most favorite blue palettes, beautiful blue palettes that I have in my collection. And they just did a wonderful job. It's bright, it's grungy, you have the depth, you have blue, you have turquoise, you got teal, you got purple, you have this beautiful orange, and this shade right here, Mauna Loa, oh my gosh, it is so beautiful and bluminescent. These two shades right here and this like nice grungy, you know, chartreuse and seagrass. Then you also have urchin and plankton. It's just gorgeous. Like, you have so many different color stories that you can have in this palette. So unlike the Paleo palette where I felt like it was very neutral and just blue, like, you know, you got browns and then you got like champagnes and then you got blues and some more blue. This one, like I said, you got your purples, you got your blues, you got your orange, you got your green, you have several different shades of green, you got several different shades of blue, you got your turquoise. So I feel like the color combinations are just very endless. The shadow quality, of course, is amazing because it's Clionadh. Also, the mattes were a little bit softer, but you'd have a lot of options you can do for the depth. Well, you got more like 3 options. You can go here to get a little bit more turquoise. You got undertow, and then you also have this. So this, of course, would just make your looks look a little bit brighter, but you would still have that depth. But these 2 shades right here definitely pull the depth. And like I said, you have like just great foiled shadows with a hint of the duochrome. This one is just so electric blue. Like, my gosh, like we weren't swatching, but we get here and we start swatching. But we have, I mean, just look at how like fluorescent that shade is. It's seriously fluorescent. It is just a beautiful, beautiful shade. I'm like, where is my towel? So because you have just so many fun options, and I literally feel like when I look at my collection, this is one of my most favorite blue palettes in my collection. I was like, it's definitely got to be ranked here at number 8. And so that is the Oceano palette by Clionadh. So coming in at number 7, this little baby right here. This is the Adept Cosmetics Unity palette. This palette was sent to me in PR, but this is just a gorgeous mauve palette, straight up mauve. Now, the only difference with this particular palette when we're talking about Adept, you got neutrals, you got your mauves, but this one is not a heavy duochrome palette. So it's like how you feel about it. Like if you're only for Adept because they got the duochromes and you want very little traditional shimmers, this one might not be for you. But if you wanted something that has a nice shimmer formula, but maybe not all those duochromes and the multichromes and the holochromes, like this is a holochrome I have on right now, but it's a subdued holochrome. But I definitely feel like you get very beautiful looks. You got your mauve situations. I feel like the mattes are not too crazy in this palette, so it's going to appeal to a large base of people. Like I feel like this palette and like Flying Fiddles are like the 2 most neutral palettes that she has kind of like in her repertoire. But overall, you got, like I said, you got your silvers, you got your baby pinks, you got the purple, you got your bronzes, you got your coppers. So overall, it's just a super solid palette. So this is the Unity palette. And of course, this came out with the blush palette. The packaging is just 10 out of 10. So we love it. All right, coming in at number 6 is my hometown, the Chicago Speakeasy palette by Nomad Cosmetics. Oh my gosh. And if you guys don't know, recently I do have a code now with Nomad Cosmetics, and it's because of this video right here. They saw this video and it was like, hey, we'd like to start sending you some things. So I'm super appreciative. It's nice when my work gets noticed because like you guys enjoy my videos, but you know, it's just nice to get the attention of the brands that you're liking and loving. But look at this gorgeous palette. They did my city right, okay? I love that it was like an actual theme around my city. I love that it had a nice color story. It's inherently neutral. It's a spicy neutral palette that gives a lot of bang. Now, this whole row right here, because you got your like fiery coppery reds. You have this nice little multi-chrome shifter shade that's red that you can just kind of spread across your eyes, just how I talked about. Like if you put it with one of these 2 shades, you just have a beautiful like ethereal look. You got your mauves, you kind of got your like silveries, you got your green, you got your purple. Now I would say for me in this palette, I did like this shade, but the green in this shade kind of just felt a little flat for me. That would be the Drifter and the Green Mill. I was really kind of upset that the Green Mill, I was like, I just thought it would be more punchier. It just wasn't. I don't really necessarily feel like it was whitewashed like how I talk about with those pastel shades, but it just didn't bring it home for me. But the rest of these shades did. So I felt like you had a lot of options, of course, to deepen up the looks. Of course, you got Capone, and we got Knock and Speak Easy, and then we got the Drunken Goat that we can definitely rely on to bring the depth in this palette. But it is just a nice neutral palette. So if you're looking for like a nice sweet spicy neutral palette that that's what I'm trying to say. I would definitely recommend this. Like, they killed it when it comes to the packaging. I love how it's like velvet. And actually, I do still have the unicarton of this palette because it has like all the jazz singers and everything like that. And I really appreciate it also. So I had to get the unicarton. So what I was saying, I also really appreciated this because it had all of the jazz singers on here, and it was a lot of people of color represented on this particular packaging because I'm born and raised in Chicago. The only time that I did not live in Chicago is when I attended Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, and then I was at a satellite campus in Jacksonville, Florida. But I'm born and raised here. And so the south side of Chicago is something that is home, okay? And even like in the area that I live in like the Kenwood community, and Bronzeville is like down the street, and like Tobacco Road is like right there, 47th Street. You just go up the street. So like a lot of this stuff hits home for me. So when I see the singers and I know about the speakeasies, and I know it took research. Like, I feel like they just did a good solid job on this. You know, like the food is such a history with Chicago, the music scene, the speakeasies. Of course, we got the gangster culture with Al Capone. So it kind of hits that, and the mob, like, you know, and then music is such a big thing. And then they're also donating to the Friends of the River. And I had actually heard of Friends of the River, but I definitely believe it. I know we have Friends of the Lakefront. Like, we don't play about, you will not obstruct any views on our lakefront. So, you know, we have the gorgeous Lake Michigan. She's so big and vast. You could just treat her like an ocean. Like, she has it can be dangerous. So I just felt like they did such a magnificent job on this palette, and they just really did my hometown right, you know? All right, top 5. Whew. Now the top 5, I'm pretty much confident about, like, pretty much stand these palettes at this point. Like, I've used them multiple times. I had to like pride myself to not use it to get ready here. So I'm glad I went ahead with that, like my Legend of Audra. But okay, so let me see. This particular palette coming in number 5, I have not worn out the house, but I'm a hard stand for it. So this is the Floating Life palette. This is by Cheerup Makeup. I'm going to put that down below. This is a C Beauty brand. I am very much into the C Beauty brands, as you can tell, because I have my Kryptein Cosmetics. It's all about the C Beauty. They are basically based out of China. Now, one thing I would like to point out, like, Kryptein Cosmetics is vegan and cruelty free. Shall We is vegan and cruelty free. And I want to say Cheerup might be vegan and cruelty free as well. I'm going to try to like put that, you know, across here or down in the comments. But look at this color story, honey. And y'all know this is my color story right now. This is the color story that I am loving right now. Like, this is so beautiful. So to me, this palette reminded me of the Vamp palette by Bella Beauty Bar. And I was going to purchase that palette, but I decided not to because I picked up the Floating Life palette. And I was just like, you know what? I feel like this can work. I also feel like if you were looking for the Glam Light Crazy in Love Chucky palette and you never got your hands on that, like, this is a better substitute than that palette. They kill it. First of all, the color story, the price, the ease of ordering these brands, because you would think that they would be hard to order, but a lot of the C Beauty brands, you can go to C Mall Beauty or you can go to the Look Healthy store and you can purchase several different C Beauty brands from that store. It's kind of like their version of Sephora. If you want their version of Ulta, okay? That's how you can think about it. So they carry multiple brands, multiple palettes by these brands, multiple different type of products, skincare, all of that type of stuff. And when the Look Healthy store packages your stuff up, honey, it is tight. Like, I did have one palette that was sent to me. It was sent to my friend. She bought it from me for my birthday. I don't even know how it broke because when she gave it to me, it was like wrapped up like Fort Knox. And we're like, well, how did this break? But same thing when I got my package. And they put those really nice cotton pads in there, kind of like the Shiseido cotton pads. Honey, okay? Like, they're not to be messed with. So the pigmentation of the mattes, oh my gosh, chef's kiss. They are not lacking in any way. They have the blendability, the formula is there, the depth and the color is there when you put them on. And they are just so smooth and so buttery down to everything. You can definitely see the depth in between. Like you have this shade and this shade and this shade is more mauve, but you can tell. You have this and this and this, which is more gray tone. You can tell. The black is there. The shimmers are gorgeous. Some of them are a little bit more textured than others, like you have here, but this still blends out to be very smooth. You just probably need to take a little bit less. Same here. You have the swirl light shade, this red. I mean, you have so many options with this particular palette. So if this is like a little bit too grungy for you, you can work it out. We're just kind of doing this shade. It's just taking one of the shimmer shades and making it work for you. I love how we have a tan. We have like this purpley red shade. We got the red, the silver. It's just a super grungy, kind of gothic, glam, cool tone palette. Like this is amazing. So that is the floating. And I love the packaging. It's so cute. It packs a lot of punch. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck in this. Now, coming in at number 4 is a palette. I have worn this out the house. Like, look, it was calling my name so bad when I got it. I was like, I have a luncheon to go. Can I make a subdued look for it? So I did. And that was like in my last palette rotation, volume 11 that went out. But oh my gosh, the Underland palette by Ensley Rain. Honey, because first of all, you already know, like the color story is going to come with it. This grungy glam goodness. So if the color story is looking like too much for you, you definitely break it up into little quads. Like you got your purples, you got your mauves. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. You got your teals, you got your reds. You have your very fun multi-chromes. You got your whites that you can use to kind of tone down some of these very deep shades. This palette is not lacking in any depth. So if you're a deeper tone, you know, it's definitely going to work for you. Like you have this more coppery shades, more chartreuse and golden, old gold shades that you can actually get a neutralish look. I just went in with a light hand and I was able to achieve something that wasn't too dark. And even when I did my 3 looks, I went all out, but I didn't go so deep that you were like had to be scared of this palette. Like I said, I rather things be deeper than too light because like I said, you just can't make it work if it's light. But overall, this is a fabulous palette. Like the shimmers, the colors, everything. So yes, and the longevity is there, of course, because the Ensley has really nice shadows. Now, like Ensley is definitely more expensive. This was like in the $80, almost $90 range by the time I finished purchasing it. But for me, like the quality is there. So I rather purchase from them because basically every palette I have by them, I really like those particular palettes. And I'm very gravitated to using them over and over again. And I'd rather get something that's like better quality than versus buying a bunch of stuff that doesn't hit the quality. Okay. All right. So coming in at number 3. Oh man, this little baby right here. This is the Somber Garden palette by Ashleigh Cosmetics, and this is a collaboration with Freya. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this was a collaboration with Freya as well. So kind of same vibe, kind of same-ish color story, but not quite, different vibes and everything like that. So these are the same content creator that came up with these palettes by different brands. So this is Ashleigh. You can purchase Ashleigh on the Look Healthy store. You can purchase it actually off of their own website. Ashleigh is having like their Black Friday holiday sale right now. I like it because this is the mini version. So the mini is $29. And I love that they have the mini version versus the full versions look beautiful, but those are like in the $50 range. I could take my $29 holla and keep it moving. And like, I just have a lot of shadows. So like, even if I'm in love with a palette, realistically, am I going to pan it? No, because, you know, I'm trying to use all of my stuff, touch all of my collection at some point, you know, multiple times. So I really do appreciate just having that mini palette color story. The only thing I would say, because I was looking at the new palette, the Freya palette that they just put out. And I was just like, why does it seem like they reordered the color story when they put it in the mini version? So I would kind of like it to put it in the same order, but I get it. But I'm grateful that they have minis. It kind of like also reminds me of like the whole Tammy Tenuka, you know how Tammy Tenuka Siegel inspired that brings real tears to my eyes that we can't purchase it. But of course, the politics, the reasons behind, it's just sad. So that's a Russian indie brand if you're not familiar with it. But she always had like the mini palettes and she had the larger palettes. So the quality is here. All of these shades, look, the surprise of the day was this blue. This blue, honey, this little seafoam bluish, it rolls to the occasion. Even this rolls to the occasion. These two, so you're going to get your depth. You got your aubergine, you got your navy, you got your periwinkle-ish gray that I like this color story. So clearly if I had a collab, you know what my color story is looking like. It's going to be like, it's going to be grungy, it's going to be glam, it's going to be navy, it's going to have some gray in it, it's going to have some red in it, it's going to be a little purple and green situation in it. Lord, somebody hear my cry. Please give me a collab, okay? So it is just a stunning palette. Once again, all of the shimmers are really beautiful. You do have some really nice one and done shades. You're going to get the warmth because of this olive green and this golden shade right here. And this golden shade looks good even if you put it with the blue and the aubergine, and this like cranberry shade is going to bring some warmth too. You're a little bit cooler here with this beautiful shade, but it's going to give the glamour. It's not going to be too deep. So you can get some deeper looks and you can get some lighter looks or just like mid-tone looks that are not, you know, going to overpower. The blendability of the mattes as well. The pigmentation is there. When you put the colors and blend them over each other, you can definitely see the different colors. It's just so good. All right. Coming in at number 2. Oh my gosh. I love this palette. So my joke is always that like when Blend Bunnies comes out with something, my life is in shambles because I got this palette like 2 days before I went into the hospital. But I had a chance to wear it out like the day before. I had some place to go and then like 2 days later I was in the hospital. But like literally this, let me tell you something. So like I feel like when she comes out with palettes, like something crazy is about to happen in my life, but I love the brand so much. And like she's released since this palette, she's released 2. She got 1 more coming out now, and I'm like, damn, my life is still in some type of shambles. Like it's, I don't know. It's always something crazy. Like the first palette she ever sent me, like I got COVID. Like the next palette she sent me, like I think I had a sinus infection, something crazy. The next palette she sent me, like my grandmother had just passed. Like it's just, it's always something. But I love her palettes, and this is probably like one of my most favorite color stories yet. Like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Like I said, I love a good green and purple moment. Like it's minty, it's gray, it's just gorgeous. And these are some of the best shimmers she's ever come out with. They are just so gorgeous. I love how we have this blue. So you do have like the traditional Blend Bunny setup. I love how she did like the every other for the shimmers. And I love how she went more blue with this particular shade, like this multi-chrome. So it's purple-y blue with these purple shades. So you can definitely get very nice monochromatic looks. It's a cool tone palette, but you have a lot of warmth. You still got some warmth in it because definitely with your shimmer shades pulling more golden in here, especially with like the chartreuse. This one here, which is called When It Rains, is really beautiful. Like I said, you got the nice minty turquoisey shade here. And these shades, like you might be a little scared, but if you mix them in with here with the grays, you get nice radiance, and even you got your taupe moment. So, oh my gosh, I just love this Blend Bunny Longing palette so much. And coming in at number 1, and like, so this and number 1 can literally kind of just like duke it out, because this could easily be number 1, but right now Gargoyle's number 1. And Gargoyle's probably number 1 because you have a few more options. This, she killed it. Like Unearthly, honey, Amanda, come to the front. Like you did your big one with this one, because I swear, like I've been down with Unearthly ever since she was Alien Cosmetics, and I really love those palettes. But then after a while, I just kind of like fell off, and I know she revamped the brand, which I was very happy to see, because I love it when indie brands brands are like elevating. I love it when indie brands get to the point where like, we ain't got to do a pre-order. Like, here's the product. You know what I mean? I love it when they can do restocks and they can just reinvest in their brand and just take it to the next level. And she has really taken it to the next level. So I admire her for sticking with it and everything. But she did her big one with this palette. This is gorgeous. This is worth every penny. That's why I also say like this was in the $60 range. So if you couldn't afford this, I do think like the Cooltrals does give you that options. Now where Cooltrals does not pick up the options with this is because you do have like these green, y'all know my hands are small. I can't hold nothing. You have like these green shades. You have more shades in this particular palette that can read a little bit lighter as far as the shimmers. So you don't always have to have that depth on the eyes, but you definitely have your deeper shimmers. You got your copper moment in here. You have nice browns that you're able to like make the look more neutral. You got your grays. They're all the shades I love. You got your blues, your aubergines, the navies, the black. You got the mid shade. And these two little shades, they show up and they show out on the complexion, okay? They are not leaving anything behind. So I really do like this palette, the color story. Like this palette's a heavy palette, y'all. Like it got some weight on this packaging. She just did an amazing job. The shimmers are very nice. They're flawless. So they look like they're hard packed in here, but they're really not. So, but they don't really have too much texture. They're not like a sticky formula, really smooth formula. I will still use my NYX glitter glue to just get that longevity on the eyes, but the mattes are very blendable. You can layer them over each other and still get a really nice look where you're not like, oh, everything's too muddy. So if you can afford this palette, and I think she has had a sale recently, I would definitely pick up the Gargoyle palette. It is just a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. So, whew, I don't want to ever get this far behind in palettes ever again because this was a lot. And I still have 3 palettes that remain untouched at this point. So, yeah. Have done well because I mean it's been a backlog. So let me know, do you have any of these palettes down below? Are you interested in anything? What is your favorite out of any of these that you mentioned, that I mentioned rather? And give this video a big old thumbs up, hit the notification bell so you know when I come out with another video, which will be soon, and subscribe to my channel because you know I love to have you here in my little makeup family. And with all of that being said, you already know what time it is. It's time for the chair dance, hey, 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 chair dance, chair dance, hey. All right, y'all. Bye.